Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be with you this evening. It's a real blessing to be here. Here's the phone number if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation. Here it is, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. We are live and national, 7 minutes past the hour. And a lot going on. President Trump doubling down, saying that Iran cannot have any nuclear weapons, making it extraordinarily clear. He also was talking about potentially having the minerals deal back on the table with Ukraine, saying they're looking forward to hopefully signing it next week. Listen to this.
President Zelensky has said he has evidence that China is supplying weaponry or ammunition to Russia. Do you have any evidence along those lines? And also, he said we could see a minerals deal signed this week. Is that...
Well, we have a minerals deal, which I guess is going to be signed on Thursday, Scott, next Thursday, soon. And I assume they're going to live up to the deal, so we'll see. But we have a deal on that. No, I have no comment on that. I have no idea. That's his statement, not mine.
So I'll keep you posted on that. Again, President Trump doubling down on these nukes. Tammy Bruce also weighing in, saying absolutely no nukes for Iran. Listen to Tammy Bruce. Check this out.
The bright red line is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. That is unacceptable. That's been President Trump's statement from the start. Now, one could ask if you need enriched uranium at 60% for a peaceful program. I'm not in those negotiations. I don't know what questions will be asked, but that is the bright red line. And that's going to be discussed in private between the people who are assigned to have that conversation. And if there's anything we know, it's what is acceptable and not acceptable to President Trump. And that position has been clear.
So that's against State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce laying it down. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. A lot of talk. I'm hoping that actually materializes, because Iran seems to not give a damn. Now, we're going to talk about those things as we move forward this evening. Then there's also some very sad news. I'm seeing reports saying actually, I think 2 people have been killed, 5 people have been wounded in a shooting at FSU. Listen to a report that we've got here from Sheriff Walt McNeil.
The shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, and he's a son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our Deputy Eichner has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. And we are continuing that investigation into how that weapon was used and what other weapons perhaps he may have had access to.
Again, that is a report from the Sheriff of Leon County there, and we're going to get into that as well in a little bit. But I want to give you a little bit of an update. Yesterday, I was remiss. I had it on my list of things to do, and I just didn't get to it. But there was a bunch of poetic justice yesterday with reports that the prosecutor, the Attorney General of the state of New York, Letitia James, who you may recall famously prosecuted President Trump and literally ran for office. It's an elected position, and she did so on the premise that if you elect me, I will go after Donald Trump. I will put Trump in jail. And won her election. I wouldn't say handily because she had a great competitor in Michael Henry in New York. But I will say this, that Letitia James was served a little poetic justice where it's now being alleged that she may have lied on an application saying that she's married to a person that is believed to be her father in order to get preferential deal on a mortgage. Now, it sounds a lot like the crime that they invented for Donald Trump, say that he inflated values, this, that, and the third. Wouldn't it be interesting if, the shoe were on the other foot? And this news came yesterday. She was also speaking at Al Sharpton's organization yesterday, the National Action Network. And I want you to hear this unhinged rant that she went into when speaking about this particular topic.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
Wow. Man, I don't know what to make of that. All I could tell you is if I were getting into a fight, I'd probably want her on my side. I don't know. She sounds very, very tough. But if you look at her record, she came after Trump already. And I don't know that she was incredibly successful, right? She said she was going to put him in jail. I don't know if she was ended up getting some sort of paper conviction or whatnot. But ultimately, I don't think anything happened there, right? I think Trump's in the White House. He's doing a fantastic job. His tariff strategy, in my opinion, it seems to be paying off. His numbers seem to be going up. And then, of course, when his numbers go up, you've got all the fake news out there saying, no, his numbers are actually going down. We're going to get into that as well, because I think it's important that we have some discussion on that stuff when they start manipulating these numbers. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But isn't it very interesting? She's just screaming from the top of her lungs, we're ready for you. I'm ready for you. I'm standing up for you. What? What are you saying, ma'am? I think she sounds unhinged. This woman's supposed to be the top prosecutor in New York. She sounds like she's on trial for something. Anyway, that's what's going on there. And there's plenty of other things that I want to discuss. I'm forgetting a lot of things. I haven't barely made any fun of all these famous women that went up to space, right? With Bezos, or not even space, but sort of space, like kind of pretend space. So I got to make fun of them too. I've got to give you some updates on everything else that's going on. Plus, I got to take some calls. Oh, and then there's this whole Carmelo Anthony thing, not the basketball player, but the guy that was allegedly, accused of killing someone. And then he gets bond, which was very interesting. We've had somebody on this program before who was put in prison for putting a hit out on somebody, and the hitman that the government says he tried to use was an FBI person. And that's why Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, is in jail. And he says he never did those things. And that they kind of coerced it and made it happen and made it look like something it wasn't, which would not be that far-fetched when you look at some of the things that the government's capable of. But that being said, for just plotting to kill someone, allegedly, he was held without any bond. Yet this guy went through with it, and he got bond. And then I just heard a report. I can't, say that I saw it firsthand. This was a report I saw on TV. that Mr. Anthony has a GoFundMe account where people are helping him with his legal defense. And part of his legal defense included buying a tricked out Cadillac Escalade. I have a penchant for those. I like Cadillac Escalade. It's one of my favorite cars. And I'd buy one too, but I don't know if I'd do it with GoFundMe money. Yeah, the whole thing is a very interesting scenario. So maybe we'll get Joe Exotic on after Easter to talk about that and give us some insight, because I think that whole case is kind of crazy. But anyway, I want to talk about Trump's poll numbers. We're scheduled to chat with Mark Mitchell, the head pollster at Rasmussen Reports, and he's joining us straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue to see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high. That's because the president is working tirelessly to keep his promises to the American people, as I just saw him doing today in the Oval Office.
That's Caroline Levitt. That was a couple of mornings ago after the UK Daily Mail put out their poll saying that Trump's efforts on tariffs actually got him a boost in his approval numbers. And I want to get to the bottom of it with our guest. Mark Mitchell is the head pollster at Rasmussen Reports, and he joins us now. Mark Mitchell, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, hey, Rich, good to talk to you again. It's wild out there. They have this attack on Donald Trump's approval. It's like the only thing the Democrats have left, full-fledged war, trying to get this guy to have a bad approval rating.
So how does this work, right? Because, again, this was the story that came out Monday. You've got the UK Daily Mail saying, wow, this worked out really good. The tariff numbers are working for him. And then you've got Levitt making this statement from the press office. And then you've got this cavalcade, Newsweek, this one, that one. Everybody's weighing in saying, no, not so fast. Trump is tanking. What's the story?
Well, they really have nothing left. I mean, if I was a Democrat, what I'd be doing right now is licking my wounds and trying to come up with a platform that's as good as America First, and also building the authority so voters actually believe that I would do it if I get in office. The problem is the Democrats have chosen not to do that, and so instead it's just stop Trump. But the mainstream media is losing their power. The main narrative, I think, is now really on Twitter. And all of these, they've tried so many psyops so far, and they've fallen flat. Signalgate, Elon Musk's a Nazi, all of this stuff, and now it was the economy. So basically where we're at is this is not Donald Trump's first rodeo, and over the last decade, he's built solid support. And what's true, and people should take it from us because we're really the only people polling presidential approval daily. So every single day for the last, 20 years, we have presidential approval. And Trump did enter office with a low approval rating by historical standards, but he did in Trump 1 too, and also so did Biden. That has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with peak political Armageddon. And he came in and he had a honeymoon. He got up to 56%. It sort of petered out to 50. And what I've been saying for months is I think he's going to stay at 50 because that's how much of the popular vote he got, and his supporters aren't going to abandon him. So then when something bad happens, there's two types of responses. One is, well, you get a little blip in the polling, and another is everybody runs for the hills. And that happened with Trump in August of 2017 when everybody thought he was a Russian asset. And it happened to Biden when Afghanistan rolled out. And I just don't think that with everything Trump's been through, we're ever going to see something like that. So what happened is his net approval last week in the peak of the stock market crash, which wasn't much of a crash, got underwater 5 points, but now he's back up to net +2, 50% approval, 48% disapprove. And everything you're hearing in the headlines is people cherry picking random polls. So the mainstream media, you'll pick Quinnipiac that has him underwater 12. If you're Karen Levitt, you're going to pick Daily Mail. That's got him up +8 right now. Truth's probably somewhere in the middle, like probably exactly where we have him at net +2, and I think he's going to stay there.
Mark Mitchell, head pollster at Rasmussen Reports. Now, Mark, I get the math. It makes sense to me. I get the political motivation of the left trying to make this look worse than it is. How do the other guys justify this stuff? How are things so drastically different? And I get the motivation, but how do they actually justify these numbers?
The other pollsters? Quinnipiac's a laughing stock, and they don't justify them. They just throw them over the fence, and everybody chuckles and moves on, except sometimes people quote them, right? And it turns out to be usually people like MSNBC and CNN. And I don't think the JLL Partners poll is bad. I think these polls have noise, and they put a poll out probably every couple of weeks. And sometimes, we had Trump +10 couple weeks back. It happens. And the thing is it's like, well, if you're going to craft a narrative, there's so much polling to just cherry pick from. But we show a constant, unbroken stream of numbers, and the numbers were he came in pretty decent at 56, and now it's just sort of petered out. I don't think Trump's going to crash. I just don't see it happening unless something really, if they got video of him kicking a kitten or something like that, that might do it. And I also don't think it's going to get up to 60% again. We're just not that kind of country anymore. If you recall, George W. Bush got up to like 80 after 9/11. The only thing I think will get there is the golden age that people do think Trump is trying to usher in. I think there's a chance with the economic reconfiguration, I think is probably the right word that he's doing. That's what people voted him in for. An economic reconfiguration and seizing power, in my opinion, from the elite authoritarian people.
Yeah, really well put. And on that note, what are the, from the polling that you've got going on, what's the hot button issue? Because I think the Democrats seem to be doubling down on this illegal immigration situation with MS-13, El Salvador, and I feel like that is a guaranteed loser. But yet you've got James Carville out here saying that he thinks that this is the number one issue that Democrats should be, hanging their hat on. What's up with that?
Again, I don't think they're a valid or viable party right now. Their establishment leaders have kind of run from the hills. Chuck Schumer was still in the vacuum for a while until everybody bit his head off after he caved to Republicans on the debt ceiling deal. And let me tell you, Democrats actually supported that. They're like, oh, yeah, we love Chuck Schumer. But then you have AOC and everybody on Reddit throwing him under the bus and calling for his resignation, and the mainstream media follows suit. So there's this, I think, this vacuum of leadership. And it's being filled by clout chasers, by AOC and Jasmine Crockett, and even Gavin Newsom's trying to clout chase too in a very different kind of way. And I don't think
he's trying to find clout with the right.
Yeah, right. Or the very, very few objective Democrats. I don't think there are many right now.
Mark Mitchell, we're going to continue the conversation. Stick with us, folks. We're coming right back with Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen Reports. He's the head pollster there. Gets it right pretty much every single time. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with Mark Mitchell. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Tariffs are making us rich. We were losing a lot of money under Biden, trillions of dollars, trillions on trade. And now that whole tide has turned. We're making a lot of money. We're taking in a lot of money. Don't forget, we're taking in 25% on cars, 25% on steel, 25% on aluminum, 10% baseline. We put penalties on China for sending us fentanyl. We put penalties on Mexico and Canada, 25% for allowing fentanyl and allowing the borders to be weak. Now we're taking in billions and billions of dollars while I sit here and talk to you.
That's President Trump in the Oval Office talking about how well America is doing with the tariff strategy. And the polls are in saying the same. The UK Daily Mail coming in with Trump going up in his approval number, hitting a record high amid the tariff turmoil. And, of course, critics and friends alike of President Trump's have been taken to the airwaves to weigh in on that as well. Bill O'Reilly, of all people, weighing in, saying that this could be very big. Listen to this.
Xi is watching. Xi knows he can inflict short-term pain on America, and Americans and Donald Trump will not be as enduring and long-suffering as the Chinese might be.
It's a gamble, and the poll numbers will go down for Trump. But if he gets what he's trying to get, then his poll numbers will rocket.
That's Bill O'Reilly on News Nation. Now, I want to bring in our pro here because our guest, Mark Mitchell, is the head pollster at Rasmussen Reports. They get it right time and again. We only bring the best pollsters on here. And Mark Mitchell, O'Reilly says this is going to bolster his numbers if things go well with tariffs. Do you agree with that, A? And B, is the economy still the number one issue? Is it immigration? What say you?
Well, it's always the economy every single time you ask for decades. But this time was a little bit different after Joe Biden's presidency where people were really hurting. You know, they tried to throw the unvaccinated into camps. People couldn't afford food. Foreign-born workers got all the new jobs. There were businesses that were shut down. It was literally horrifying. And we've had times where are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The question come back in the 50s. This time it came back in the low 30s. And only 22% of people think today's children will be better off than their parents. That's what it was like going into this election. And so that's what blows my mind is that the media is so fixated on the old elite establishment measures like the stock market. I'll tell you what, voters do not care what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is. That's not what this is about.
Most people don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And we asked them, well, what's the economy? Is it jobs or the stock market? And it's like 4-1 almost that they say jobs. And so what this is about is that the American middle class was hollowed out and stomped on by globalism. And I'll tell you what, the measure that I think people should watch isn't necessarily Trump approval. It's whether the country's headed in the right direction. And that number, we saw a record high in all 20 years of our polling just last month, 48%, the highest ever. And it's at 46% right now. And we're about to hit a record for number of consecutive weeks over 40. Like people are very happy now in a way they have not been for like 2 decades. The only other time they were this happy was right in the beginning of 2020 when we had a Trump economy right before the COVID pandemic came out. And Trump was doing okay, but again, I think he's just going to stay around 50%, and I don't think he's going to plunge because I think Americans, what it comes down to is that every single component of the American First platform is more popular than Donald Trump is. It's not like he's some snake oil salesman that convinced people that we need to deport everybody. They're begging their politicians to deport people, begging their politicians for manufacturing jobs, begging them to rebalance.
Trump's just a genius that figured out. Is that what you want? Got it. I'll scratch where you itch.
Yeah, he's the genius that didn't take K Street money like all the other Republicans and actually is looking out for the Americans, right? That's what it ultimately comes down to. And I think people fundamentally get that. That's why he got more votes than any Republican in history. And so I think the only thing that's really going to make Donald Trump's numbers tank is if he rolls over on this stuff. So, let's get those arrests. Let's get mass deportations. Let's get E-Verify. That'd be a really simple measure to increase the number of self-deportations. And I think people are happy. I think that's why the right direction is as high as it is about things like Doge coming in and about all of the very aggressive tactics. People understand that he's being aggressive. We asked about that. Is he aggressive on trade? The number's like 75%-ish, I think, plus or minus 5 points. It was up there. So, yeah, that's what it comes down to, is his platform is anti-elite, and the elites, they're on the ropes right now, and they're trying everything, and it's just getting worse and worse for them. I love to see it.
Mark Mitchell, I think you're spot on. And, you know, what I find interesting here is what you just said, right? Trump seems to say, oh, this is what the people care about. All right, let me run with this. And then he does well with it. Yet everybody else, whether it's try to make their own agenda or the Democrats pushing their own agenda, they don't get that. And here we are where I think people, like you said, they're happy, right? Despite the doom and gloom that they're crying, despite everybody I know. And I realize I'm in a little bit of a bubble, but most of my friends, when I was like, hey, how's the market treating you? They all laughed and they're like, are you kidding me? I'm going shopping. Everything is so dirt cheap right now. And they're like, buy as much NVIDIA as you can. You know, everybody seems so happy because they know they're going to make some money down the road. And I think they realize that there is to borrow the term from Klaus Schwab, a global reset on the way we do our economics, the way we do our finances, changing the tariff system, talk about abolishing the IRS. All of these things are very, they were lofty ideas when Ron Paul used to talk about ending the Fed, but now they seem like, you never know, it could be a real thing with Trump.
Yeah, it could be a reality.
Mark Mitchell. What do you think?
Well, I think exactly. I think that I don't know how much, but I think the Americans have a stomach for a lot of this because unlike all of the mainstream media mouthpieces, they remember the Biden administration. And the Biden administration was not great. And so you can't come out and say, oh, Trump, oh, the chaos. It's not going to work. Like people were fired from their jobs. They had to stay inside. They weren't allowed outside without masks. Like it's incredible. We gave an air base to China and donated $20 billion in military equipment to the Taliban. You're just not going to be able to sweep that stuff under the rug. And I think ultimately this was an issue of trust in the federal government. Only 30% of people trusted the federal government, but Kamala Harris convinced 49% of people to trust her. So ultimately this is really about an anti-government candidate, and we got one. And he's doing anti-government things. And so he's really popular. Like, that's what it comes down to.
Mark Mitchell, speaking of popular, you have a very popular video series that you put out on YouTube from Rasmussen. And I want you to tell us a little bit about it. What can people expect when they check out your YouTube show?
Yeah, thanks so much. We stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 p.m., although we're taking about a week of break off because of spring break, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we get really interactive. I go to chat a lot and answer questions, but it's political news from the context of public opinion, because I think public opinion is really going to determine how far Trump's able to bring this stuff. And I think we're in store for a pretty wild 2025. I don't think we've seen 1% yet of what this year has in store for us. Hopefully it's mostly good stuff, but we're probably on the cusp of World War III with China too. Who knows?
Unbelievable. Well, Mark Mitchell, we're going to have you back on as soon as we can to get an update on these things. I want to thank you for being here. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Thank you, sir, and happy Easter. God bless.
Back at you, Rich. Thanks so much.
You got it, brother. And amigos, we continue our conversation with you all, the American people. You know the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So, amigos, the White House is honoring Holy Week with worship and prayer, and President Trump had some excellent remarks. I'll be playing some of those for you maybe a little bit later. I also am going to save some of those for a conversation we're going to have, I believe, with a pastor tomorrow in honor of Good Friday. I'm not taking any days off this Holy Week, so make sure you keep it locked right here. If you're home, you're hanging out, whatever. I don't think you're going to be out at the restaurant or the bar tomorrow. I don't think so. But if you are, enjoy. If you're not, tune in. I think you're going to enjoy tomorrow's show just as much as today, if not more. That's that. I got a bunch of good audio here. AOC's making the rounds as if she's running for president. I don't know. She was in Montana. Tiffany Cross, remember her? She gave us so many good sound bites. She used to be on MSNBC. Well, she keeps popping up on CNN. We might hear from her in a little bit as well. But I want to get to your calls because as the late, great Jim Bohannon and Larry King carried the Open Phones Across America mantle for 46 years, I will do the same with you guys tonight. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And let us go here to the telephones. Let's go to Tony calling us from Silver Spring, Maryland, WMAL. Go for it, Tony.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call. I have a question. I heard some talk from a pretty good authoritative source that the idea of tariffs because we have a trade deficit, that having a trade deficit is not in and of itself a reason to have tariffs. Now, I was kind of thinking something along the lines, although I'm more or less trusting the Trump administration that they know what they're doing, but nonetheless, this is kind of bothering me. The example that was given was, I spend hundreds of dollars every year at my local supermarket, and they spend zero money on anything I have to sell because I basically don't sell anything. He also mentioned Madagascar. They can't afford American cars and goods because they're a poor country, but we can afford to buy all of their fruits and nuts or whatever they sell, and therefore we're going to have a deficit with them, I think was the example. What's your opinion on that? And if there's time, I have one other question after I get your answer.
Well, I'll get to that one. I think when President Trump is talking about these trade deficits, while these countries appear on these charts, clearly it goes without saying that doesn't make any sense, right? That those aren't the significant ones he's talking about. Where he's really talking about is he's talking about China. He's talking about our immediate partners where we have trade agreements, right? We have we used to have something called NAFTA, which one would have thought gave us a deal with our North American partners in Canada and Mexico. However, we don't, right? We found out just from looking that for them to protect their dairy industry, they push out any Albany-based, any northern New York State, Wisconsin, anybody from the northern United States, they push out all of those dairy farmers. They don't allow them to export anything. Well, they do, but they give them a 270% tariff on their dairy goods. So these are, I think, some of the things where Trump is trying to level the playing field. And again, we've got to, this is kind of, this is medicine, right? This is taking your medicine. So I like to think of it as me growing up as a kid. And perhaps I grew up with what some today will call abuse, and I will call the firm hand of my parents. And I remember it was, make sure you do this, or I'll smack you in the face. Right? Those are the options that I had growing up. So it was like, oh, okay. And I think those are the options that we have right now for some people. So some people are realizing, okay, great. Now, Trump's not going to hurt anyone physically, but he's saying, look, if you want to continue to make money with us, then play ball with us. And he's giving them an option. The alternative to the option is not attractive, and it's designed to be not attractive. So a whole lot of this stuff is negotiating. Now, I know when the press, gravitates towards saying, this little small country that doesn't do anything and we have a trade deficit, that's fine. This is them trying to pick apart something to make it seem like the whole thing is for naught. But we can already see what's happening, right? In the last month, I've seen Hyundai announce that they're opening a steel plant. We're going to mine iron ore and make steel. right? That wasn't happening. We were just signing a deal with Nippon in Pennsylvania, right? Because we weren't doing enough of that. So now Hyundai's saying, no, we'll do it in the United States. Huge win. Then you've got Honda, right? Not Hyundai, but Honda, saying we're going to commit to making 90% of our cars inside the United States, moving our operations from Canada and Mexico into the U.S. Now, whether they go to Indiana, whether they go to Detroit, wherever they're going to go, they're going to hire people that live in the United States. So American jobs. So what Trump is saying is going to happen is already happening. You couple that with all of the investment that they're putting in AI, and this AI stuff is really just to, in my opinion, to fuel the next industrial revolution, right? We don't need the sweatshops of China when we have the assembly line of Henry Ford. But now we have it on steroids with AI and robotics. And just imagine that. Imagine the new American assembly line fueled by AI and robotics. And you're going to say, well, how do Americans get jobs? Who's going to program these things? Trump has this whole visa thing going on. We're trying to not import any talent that we don't need. So if we have programmers and people that can write the code for the AI here, super. That's going to happen. So in my opinion, we're already seeing this stuff work. I wouldn't be too worried about the strategy to sell the program or the detractors glomming on to that specific component. Now, I have to take a pause here, but quickly just tell me what the other part of your question was, and I'll try and answer it on the other side.
Okay, he's using tariffs punitively against Mexico for fentanyl and drugs. Has there been any talk about using punitive tariffs for places like India for stealing $10 billion a year in phone scamming and internet scamming? Seriously, that's a serious question.
All right. Yeah, I'll find out about it. I didn't know anything about those things. So it's all news to me. But thank you for the call, Tony in Silver Spring, Maryland, WMAL. Amigos, keep it locked right here. Coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we continue our conversation from New York City all the way to Alaska. I want to say aloha to all of our people in Hawaii that are listening right now, listening live. Where's my people in California at? Big shout out to all our people in the Pacific Northwest. And I want to go right to the middle of the country. Let's go to Idaho, KBOI. Check in with Paul. Go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich. As far as polling is concerned, I know Karnacki for BS-DNC, he always gets something swayed a little bit towards the libs every time, without fail. You can bet money on that. And it seems that it's a deal that's already been made. It's an unwritten deal, but it's always done. I'm not going to single out just the
So you're saying the media is in the tank for the left?
Absolutely. I don't care if it's MSDNC or BSDNC. It's all the same. And, you know, I've been...
And this is in reference to the poll numbers?
Yeah, without fail.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Amigos, we continue the conversation with all of you, the American people, we the people. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Some of you won't be here in the next hour, so to you I say hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. And everybody else, keep it locked right here. We're coming right back. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Our phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I think the Democrats continue to be, I don't know, upset, panties in a bunch, like we say in Spanish, con el moño virado. They're very upset. You've got all sorts of Democrats that are out there making all sorts of very, very interesting, to put it nicely, comments, right? You've got, let me just show you a few here. Tim Walz, how about that, right? He's not of big consequence here. Neither is Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. But they're all out there. Walz yesterday, he's out there saying, if you're not speaking up for Abrego Garcia, there'll be no one left to speak for you. Linda Sanchez saying, whether you're a citizen or not, you have certain rights before they can take away your right to freedom. We got Tiffany Cross on MSNBC on CNN yesterday saying, if Garcia is not a citizen and he's not afforded due process, then none of us are citizens. How does she come up with that one? Listen to this.
Which is very terrifying. And I have to say, even outside the legal ease of this, it is just terrifying to us as human beings. I don't think this is an issue, a political issue. I don't think this is an issue where we can have, well, this side says this and this side says this one. We have to look at if he's not a citizen and he's not afforded due process, then none of us are citizens. What is to stop this administration from me walking out of this studio tonight and me saying something that they don't like and them grabbing me and saying, well, you're not a citizen? Well, how do you know? Because I've not been afforded.
Hold on. What's to stop them? Let's see. Number one, you actually are a citizen, as far as we know. Number two, what's stopping them? I don't know. The law. They're not going to kidnap. They didn't kidnap this guy. Right? They didn't kidnap this guy. He was deported early by accident. He was going to be deported anyway. Right? That was the oversight. That he was still due for one more hearing so they could announce that his temporary protected status was going to be revoked or was revoked. I understand that a mistake was made, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we deported the wrong guy. It wasn't that kind of mistake. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we were supposed to give you a back rub and instead we deported you. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we were supposed to put you in some sort of waiting list, for the free vacation you just won. And oh, by accident, we sent you to this maximum security hellhole in El Salvador. None of those are true. I mean, the things that Tiffany Cross is saying here are just outright crazy. What do you mean none of us are citizens? I'm a citizen. I say things that Biden didn't like all the time. I'm sure I say things that Trump doesn't like. Nobody's coming to lock me up. Nobody's locking up Mr. Abrego Garcia because of something that they didn't like what he said. I'm sure they don't like what you're saying, Ms. Cross. Nobody's locking you up. This man has been arrested because his street name, his code name in the MS-13 gang is Chele. And he had this position, according to the police report, of chequeo. All right, so this is an independent law enforcement entity, right? They don't work for me. They're not necessarily Republicans. They're not part of immigration. These are the police in Maryland who are saying this guy is with MS-13. This is his position with the gang. This is his rank. This is his nickname on the street. And this is why he's wearing what he's wearing, right? Goes into detail about what he's wearing, from his hoodie to his hat, right? Maybe it's all a big mistake, but that's not on Trump. They're going off the intelligence that they have available to them. So yeah, there was this mistaken administrative oversight, but it wasn't like we sent the wrong guy. They didn't get the wrong person. Anyway, go ahead.
due process? What is stopping them from deporting me into this El Salvador prison where there are thousands of people locked up without due process? Our own State Department warned about Bukele, the president of El Salvador, negotiating with gangs, doing nefarious things there. And so the fact that we're sitting back allowing this to happen and discussing this as though it's a political issue, this is a humanitarian issue. And when
Hold
you
on
look
there.
at
It's a humanitarian issue because you have someone that's being tough on crime? I mean, do you hear the words coming out of her mouth? This is a humanitarian issue that we're negotiating with gangs. What is she talking about? Go ahead.
the habits of dictators. When you look at the behavior of Orban, when you look at the behavior of Erdogan in Turkey, when you look at the behavior of Putin, they do all these various things. They go after the higher education system. Even Putin said wars are won by teachers. When you look at what Erdogan is doing, cozying up to other dictators, it is frightening. And we're seeing that happen before our very eyes. And to me, it feels like we're in the path of destruction. And I'm watching this storm come through and knock everything out. And for all the people who say, oh, I don't care, that doesn't impact me, guess what? You are in the path of destruction, too. We have to stop this and look at this as a humanitarian issue.
You can look at it as a humanitarian issue all you want. Call the Red Cross. Get the guy a sweater. Get him a blanket. Send some money on his books. Give him his money in his commissary. Do whatever you got to do humanitarian-wise. But legal-wise, as it pertains to the law, that part the United States has a check mark. The Supreme Court said they're good and that they should pay for him to come back should he be released by the Salvadorians. The Salvadorians were here this week. I don't know if you remember that on Tuesday, President Bukele said, no, I'm not letting him go. What do you want me to do, break him out of jail, smuggle him into the United States? So I think that every base here has been covered. Now, she goes through this litany of people, throwing in Prime Minister Viktor Orban, trying to say that he's a dictator, linking him to Putin and Erdogan. She could say what she wants. Every country operates in different ways, right? What she can't do is put Trump in there. She said, Putin says that wars are won and lost by teachers. You ever heard Trump say that? If anything, Trump is abolishing the Department of Education. So maybe he doesn't want any wars. I don't think you didn't land a single shot here, Tiffany Cross. You sounded frantic. You didn't make a solid case for anything. The Democrats are melting down. They're melting down. They've got nothing. They're literally doing their very best to defend someone that has known gang ties to a foreign terrorist organization whose wife, we now know, filed a restraining order against him. Who knows what else is going to come out of the woodwork? We now know his street name. We now know his position within the gang. Yet they're doubling down, tripling down. Oh, Tiffany. Just give it a few more days. You're lucky it's Easter because it might slow down. People might be taking off the next few days because otherwise I think this narrative would be dead by Monday. I honestly do. Anyway, we're going to talk about this stuff from a different angle, right? We got all sorts of crime going on in this country, and Rachel Morin often is brought up in this situation, and she is the young woman who was horrifically raped and murdered, and her mother made she made a speech at the White House. She was answering questions, or she made some remarks, and then she answered questions and made an impassioned speech. And we don't have time to bring you all of it, but I have a clip that I'd like to play for you in a little bit. I also want to get some analysis on what's going on with this shooting. There was a shooting at FSU, Florida State University, and we're going to get the scoop on that. We have a retired sheriff that's going to be joining us to explain exactly what went on from his perspective. And we're going to do that straight ahead. Plus, a little bit later, we're going to talk about Doge. Of course, the left is freaking out about Doge. And the latest rallying cry, besides the immigration, is we have to continue to fund NPR and PBS. So help us. So keep it locked, folks. We got a lot to discuss. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
At approximately 11:50 a.m., Thursday, April 17th, a gunman opened fire on the main campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee, shooting multiple individuals in the vicinity of the Student Union building. FSU police responded immediately, engaged, neutralized, and apprehended the shooter. 2 victims are deceased, and 5 individuals have been transported to a local hospital with gunshot wounds. The shooter has also been transported to a local hospital. The 2 deceased are not students. The shooter is believed to be a current FSU student.
That is the chief of police at Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida today, where 2 were killed and 5 are believed to be wounded. You've got the shooter being apprehended. He's still alive. Jason Trumbauer, again, the chief of police there, following up on a report earlier from Sheriff Walt McNeil from Leon County, indicating that the shooter that's in custody is also the son of a deputy of the sheriff's office in Leon County. So I want to get an update on this. Sadly, these things, should never happen, but they do. And when they do, we try to bring in, I was going to say the big guns, but it's probably not the best choice of words. But the pros, people who know what's going on. And for that, I want to bring in Dr. Currie Myers. He's a retired sheriff. He's America's criminologist. He's been doing this stuff for 24 years in law enforcement at the local, state, and federal level. He's on the faculty in the criminology department at Benedictine College, and he focuses on public policy and ethics. Dr. Currie Myers, welcome back, sir.
Always a pleasure to be on. Thanks so much.
You bet. So let's talk about this. What can you tell us about it? I think many of us have only heard what we've seen in snippets and pieces on the news.
Certainly tragic shooting today at FSU. Again, the perpetrators identified as a 20-year-old FSU student, Phoenix Eichner. And it appeared that he opened fire near the Student Union building that resulted in, of course, the deaths of 2 individuals, as the police chief just indicated, and injured 6 others. And again, Eichner is the son of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. He used his mother's former service weapon in an attack. Sometimes departments allow officers to buy outdated handguns from the department, and this was that case. This was a gun that the department had that was for sale that officers can purchase when those handguns are retired. He was apprehended after being shot by law enforcement, and this is an example of, once again, law enforcement should be commended for the quick direct-to-threat response to neutralize the shooter.
Absolutely. And Doc, what do we know in terms of motive? We know that he shot 2 people who were not students. Do we know why he was shooting them, who they are in relation to him, what the whole story is?
Well, there's a lot of work that's going to be done from an investigatory point of view to include victim witness interviews, ballistics analysis, evidence collection. In today's day and age, digital forensic is going to play a huge role, both in the shooter's devices as well as social media scrutiny. Any cyber footprint mapping that's going on, taking a look at the person's criminal mental health records, associates and networks, academic and disciplinary issues there at FSU. Was he involved in any protests that occurred, any kind of radicalization that occurs, affiliations with known groups or hate groups? Those are all things that they will begin to look at. But this incident really underscores, in my opinion, the disturbing trend in modern criminal behavior. And I wrote about this in my book, The Advent of Feral Man, where we explored the emergence of a new criminal archetype shaped by really what psychologists refer to as the dark tetrads, which is a cluster of personality traits that includes narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and sadism. So these traits really are...
Is this where the incels fit in?
Yes.
Got it. I've heard about them before, and we've talked about that, not in length, but we've mentioned it, and I thought it was fascinating that there are people that are involuntarily celibate. or voluntarily celibate, which is just odd to me.
Yeah, there's of course the religious do that, but it can involve that. It's not necessarily goes with everything, but narcissism really is excessive focus. Machiavellianism is really strategic manipulation, and there's a lot of impulsivity that occurs, and there's lack of empathy and disregard for societal norms. And what the dark tetrads are really a focus on sadism, so that enjoyment of cruelty and humiliation, the suffering of others. Those are the things that kind of go through. And it seems like in the last 10 years or so, we've seen an increase in the dark psychological traits. And unfortunately, gender-specific men consistently score higher across all four of the dark tetrad traits, particular with psychopathy and sadism. And women, sometimes exhibit narcissism and Machiavellianism differently, but mainly men. When you look at the psychological background of shooters, they're primarily men, usually ages 18 to 25, sometimes can be older, but that also marries up with the dark psychological traits. They have the same kind of gender and age area. It's interesting, a lot of these folks are highly educated, or maybe they don't go to formal education, but they have high IQs.
Very interesting. Folks, we're on with Dr. Currie Myers. He's a criminologist and a former sheriff. And we're looking at this criminal archetype. And, Doc, I find it interesting because, it's kind of like going inside the mind of a school shooter. And as more of these happen, sadly, we get more information about what causes it. And we don't have a ton of time left in this segment, but we could come back and finish the conversation on the other side of the break. But what I'd like to know, what I'm curious about is, are there any telltale signs that stand out, like these kids are all from a broken home, or they tend to be kids that grew up without dads versus moms, or vice versa?
Yeah, there definitely is. In today's culture, it's highly digitized, and there's what's called social contagions that are going on. That social media platforms act as kind of echo chambers, especially for narcissists, aggressive behavior, being desensitized. So studies have shown that digital environments reward attention-seeking, deceptive, and abusive behavior, which are the hallmarks of the dark tetrad traits. And you have anonymity that occurs, that only encourages trolling and harassment and glorification of violence. These all things that fuel antisocial behavior. So in today's culture, we're really seeing these social contagions take place. We probably see it a lot when in reference to like transgenderism would be considered as a pretty significant social contagion that's going on in today's society as an example. But in my book, again, what I focused on is the lack of faith, family, and formation. It's that collapse of moral anchors that is occurring.
Well, I'd like to pull on that thread a little bit and hear more about the lack of faith, family, and formation when we come back with Dr. Currie Myers, a retired sheriff and criminologist. Don't go anywhere.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The alleged shooter was also a long-standing member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. So he has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. This event is tragic. in more ways than you people in the audience could ever fathom from a law enforcement perspective. But I will tell you this, we will make sure that we do everything we can to prosecute and make sure that we send a message to folks that this will never be tolerated here in Leon County, and I dare say across this state and across this nation.
Again, a message from the sheriff of Leon County there. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers of sympathy with all of those who lost their lives and their families. This is an interesting thing. And the sheriff's there describing how this young man was, involved with the sheriff's department, from handling weapons to training programs to just being involved. And that's part of it, right? So we understand how he's able to handle himself. But we don't know what goes into it, right? We don't know what really goes inside the mind of a school shooter. And that's why I want to continue our conversation with Dr. Currie Myers. He's a retired sheriff himself, America's criminologist. He spent 24 years in law enforcement before going into academia at the state, federal, and local level. And he's now on faculty in the criminology department at Benedictine University. And Doc, you were talking about the book that you've written and a lack of faith and formation, and there was another F word there. What was it?
Family, the importance of family.
And you said these are the things that go into a lot of why these school shooters kind of go astray. Tell us more.
Well, it's the erosion of traditional values, particularly grounded in what I call the three pillars of importance in our formation, which is faith, family, and formation. And again, in recent years, we're seeing a decline in faith. We have less people that have been going to church, going to mass, be involved in the faith life. The good news, we are seeing some resurgence that's occurring in the last year or so, but that can fuel the rise of antisocial tendencies. If you have a family that's disconnected, if you don't have, there's a huge increase in fatherlessness in America today. We don't know all the details with this individual shooter, so I'm speaking in generalities right now, of course. If the family plays an important role and a father has shown to be involved in the lives of their children, it plays a great emotional stability towards them. We've seen a huge increase in divorces that have occurred. We see more and more people have live-in relationships, or they may have blended families where they move in together but don't get married. So those sometimes can be confusing, and all of a sudden you could be cohabitating with a person of the opposite sex. You could have a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, both came from different families that all of a sudden are living together, and they haven't the parents haven't formed a union. They're just living together. And then last but not least, formation. How we form our children plays an important role, and that's just not academically. It's just not through education, but it's civically. It's following commitment. It's following again the standards of good values and morals, and you learn those. Those are learned traits, and you can learn bad traits from bad people, or you can learn good traits from good people. The Pew Research Center and the Institute of Family Studies consistently affirm that religious and family stability is one of the most reliable predictors of pro-social behavior and emotional resilience.
Really well put. Doc, let everybody know the name of your book and how they can get a copy for themselves and a copy to give away.
I have it online, and you can go to my Substack, which is drcurriemyers.substack.com, and you can get access to my book through the paid version of my site. I have an unpaid version and a paid version. I write weekly on criminal justice issues, ethical issues involving criminal justice. I just did one on AI and the implications of AI in criminal justice. And I have a podcast that I put out that's on Substack as well. And one other thing to know about these issues with the mass shooters is mental health issues. We've seen a significant increase in mental health issues, especially among youth. It's about 42% of adolescents reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. That's up 28% from 2011. We've seen mental health hospitalizations for youth increase 124% since 2016. And in my opinion, we've become a society of enablers and not treaters when it comes to mental health professionals. They validate identities, they avoid confrontation, we sidestep structural therapy, we don't have mental health treatment facilities like we used to. We used to have many of them. We used to have state hospitals that could take care of people, and most of those have been closed. And so affirmation-based practices have been substituted for evidence-based treatments.
Dr. Currie Myers, I appreciate everything. This was a very enlightening, sobering conversation. I encourage people to get a copy of the book because this is stuff that we've got to be able to get ahead of it, because sadly I find that we are always, reacting to it. And if there are that many telltale signs and we know what to do, then maybe it's time we do a little bit better job at getting ahead of it. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and thanks for being here tonight.
It's always a pleasure. We need to focus on the real problems, and we talk about firearms, and it's not about firearms. It's about the things we just discussed.
Yeah, I agree. Dr. Currie Myers, thank you, sir. And amigos, we continue straight ahead with your thoughts, calls, and reactions. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, you, of course, have a track record now. People have heard you, and they know that, in fact, you've got the goods. You have the talent, and you have the ability to do a superb job.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We go to your phone calls momentarily, 833-4VALDEZ. But I want to remind you that crime comes in various forms, and there was an illegal alien that raped and then brutally murdered Rachel Morin in Maryland. And her mom today did something that, for me, is unthinkable. I give her so much credit. She is such a brave, strong person to recount those harrowing moments of her, final moments of her daughter's life based on how it was presented in the courtroom as she was taking questions and then made an impromptu speech in the White House press briefing room. And I got to tell you, I heard the whole 6 or 7 minutes of it, almost 8 minutes. It was jarring. And again, just Godspeed to her. But here's a little bit of that. Listen to these comments.
You know that Rachel's a 37-year-old mother. She has 5 children. We've walked the trail for the last 25 years that we've lived in Maryland. It's a safe place for our family. It's where we go to get a little bit of New England, because that's where we're from, New England. When she went on that trail that day, she was not planning on dying. She wasn't planning on walking to her death. She was planning on going to the grocery store with her girls afterwards. Victor Martinez, he waited for her. He waited for her to come closer. He saw her. He saw that there was nobody around. He attacked her. He dragged her 150 feet, blood gushing from her head. It left a 150-foot trail of her blood to the culverts, where he picked her up, he threw her against the wall of the tunnel, and he raped her. But before he did that, he stopped on that trail, and rocks, still stained with her blood, he used them to hammer her head against those rocks. They say at least 20 times they could count the cuts in her head. They said that when they did the autopsy, and I've seen the pictures, there's a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull is shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell.
Wow. My prayers, my support, my heart goes to Patty Morin and her family, and they received some justice as they, got a guilty conviction for this monster who savagely took their child away. But man, I don't believe I have what it takes to do what she just did, and I pray that I never have to find out if I do or not. The courage, the compassion, right? The compassion that you have to have for people, for justice, for the rule of law. When you're faced with that, it's just God bless her. That's all I could say. I don't know that I could do it. I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to do it. I think she's a very special woman. You have to have enough respect for a system of justice, for your community, for your country, for God and all things good and holy, to not throw everything you believe out the window when something like that happens to you. And, perhaps it's those 5 little angels that she left behind. Maybe that's what keeps the mom focused and, from losing her head. Because I can't imagine I would think rationally, at any point. And I know it's been a while, but how do you put a time frame on that, on that level of healing? Anyway, it was a very, very, very emotional speech. It was a very, very emotional day for the Morin family, and honestly for me, I hear that and I think, my goodness, she talks about that's her daughter. I have a daughter. Her daughter has daughters. I don't have any grandkids, but all I could think of is, my goodness, this is someone's child. And thank God she's out there advocating for what happened to her kid, because the watchdog of truth in America is the media. And the watchdog of what really happened here and what's going on is asleep at the wheel. They're too busy talking about this man, Obrego Garcia, and why we need to break him out of jail so he can come get a trial so he can get deported all over again. A guy who's part of a gang that does this type of thing on a regular basis. And I don't want to use guilt by association, but in this case you have to. Because it is these illegal alien gangs, these transnational terrorists that operate this way. They use fear and intimidation. They want to be known as the people that will rape and pillage your city. They don't play around. You mess with them, they mail your mom bits and pieces of you to send a very strong message. This is exactly how they operate. And I got to tell you, it's a shame for anybody out there that is defending illegal aliens. It's a shame for anyone out there that's defending any terrorist, whether it's AOC defending the pro-Hamas terrorist supporters, or the Tiffany Cross and Elizabeth Warren and Rep. Linda Sanchez and Tim Walz defending Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 terrorist. I mean, come on. When are we going to sit here and stand up for the Morin family? When are we going to sit here and say, hey, enough is enough with this, all right? Even if you believe it was the biggest mistake in the world, that guy's alive. This girl is not. Have some compassion, have some sense, have some couth. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
Will you take steps to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States and put him in front of a judge?
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is.
That's President Trump in the White House today, making it as plain as possible. Talk to the lawyers, we'll figure out the truth. Sounds fair to me. And it amazes me. And listen, I'm amazed because I don't normally get surprised by these things. But to me, it's an open and shut type of thing, right? This is not a situation where we took, AOC, and she's been deported. To where? I don't know, Puerto Rico, right? As if you could deport people there. I always say, please deport me there. And if AOC were deported, we'd be, we should all be up in arms, right? I might be the first one saying, look, I can't stand AOC's crazy policies, all out crazy policies. But the last thing I want to do is use lawfare against her, right? I like to play this game fair and square. I think I could beat her on the merits of most arguments. We all could. And not because of her lack of ability. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is her position on these issues. They're weak. They're not winning positions. The collectivist view is not the winning view. It's an emotional plea. It's always the same thing. The colonizers, the imperialism, endless wars, right? It's these just same talking points that don't have anything to do with real people, but they make you feel like they have everything to do with you. And if you didn't understand that statement, replay it. Try to digest it, because that's really what it is. If you're harboring your own feelings of I don't have enough in life, right? Like I do. I wake up every day and I say, why is it that I am not choosing which of my multiple penthouses I am going to broadcast from today? I always wonder, why is it that I'm not looking outside my window with a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline, or watching the waves crash on the beach from my condo on the beach in Puerto Rico that is soundproof, so I can broadcast my show from there, but not hear the waves crashing as I watch them crash. Or thinking maybe I could go to dinner at Gecko and still make it home to my loft in Brickell in Miami. Why is that not happening? Because I don't have money for that. But the day I do, I'll get those things. I don't sit here and think it's the imperialist Americans, it's collectivism is going to get me the stuff that I want. Come on. It's quite the opposite. It's capitalism that's going to get me the stuff that I want. So anyway, I don't know. If there's a lefty out there, give us a call. Help me understand. Try to convert me. And we'll do that straight ahead. Plus, we're also going to talk about developments on autism from Secretary Bobby Kennedy of the HHS. So keep it locked right here. That and Doge is still on the radar. Don't go anywhere, folks. Rich Valdez coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Thursday night. We're live, we're national. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And the Ragin' Cajun, he was a big advisor to President Clinton, and he's usually, on the mark with things, right, when it comes to advising the Democrats. And I'm watching a clip of him. He was advising the Democrats to continue full speed ahead with this Abrego Garcia, this MS-13 deportee. And I can't figure out for the life of me why they think that's the issue. Like they do it with everything, right? So that ultimately they can all turn around and say, I am Abrego Garcia. I am Ukraine. I am George Floyd. I am, I stand with so-and-so. I get it. It's nice and dramatic. They love to do that. They love to sympathize with the oppressed. I get that. But when you know that it's a losing issue, when you know that by and large, Americans, probably about 90%, don't want illegal immigrants, starting with the people that are immigrants themselves, people that came from Italy, people that came from France, people that came from South America, people that come from the Caribbean. Doesn't matter where you come from. I do nothing on a daily basis. I meet immigrants. Just yesterday, I was telling you about this Dominican restaurant I went to. And the woman was telling me, she's like, I know I'm Hispanic and people think that I'm crazy, but she's like, she's like, people come here for what? And I said, the American dream. She said, that's right. She said, if I wanted to deal with a broken immigration system, I'd deal with all the Haitians sneaking in our country, in Dominican Republic. And she went on, she said, it's not about them being black. She's like, we're all black. It's Dominican Republic. She said, it's just that we can't. She said, when something, God forbid, happens to a family member and you go to the emergency room and it's filled because they don't have health care any other way. So they're there for hours and hours and clogging up their health care system. And again, the Dominican Republic's not necessarily like the United States, where there's as many hospitals, where there's all the different types of things that we have available here. They don't have that. They don't have public education, right? Most people I know go to private school because where there is public education, it's not even mediocre. It's poor. So it's a whole different system there, and they're overrun. And I've been there myself in the Dominican Republic, where these very young children come that don't speak Spanish. They speak Creole, and they look like the kids in the commercials from when I was a little kid, when my mom used to tell me, make sure you eat all your food because there's kids in Ethiopia that are starving. Those kids that had worms in their bellies, these kids come, they look exactly like that. The level of poverty in Haiti is severe. So why am I talking about all that? Because you've got all of these Democrats that are out there making a conga line, right? For lack of a better word, to borrow a term from the great one, Mark Levin. And it really is, it's pathetic. It's sad. It's crazy, in my opinion. Elizabeth Warren is out there singing the song. Ed Markey, he's singing a different song, actually. Let me see, who else was out there? AOC was in Montana talking about the other one, Mahmoud Khalil. But Tiffany Cross, that we played earlier, oh, my goodness, horrible. Maybe you haven't heard that yet. You will hear it shortly. But just really just brutal. Listen to Senator Elizabeth Warren, cut 6 on The Morning Joe today.
But the point is, why are they doing this? Right. And the answer is they want to have the American people say it's okay to just disappear people. Right. And somehow they think if they can make up lies about him.
Hold on a second. So Senator Warren, when somebody shoots someone, robs someone, defraud someone and they're sentenced to jail, right? That's disappearing someone. Now you're going to say, but Rich, this guy wasn't sentenced to anything. Well, I think he was scheduled to go to court and then he was going to be deported. And he got deported ahead of time as an administrative oversight. That was a mistake. Not deporting him, doing it when they did. Got it.
If they can do whatever they want, then the answer will be the American people will settle for this. We do not disappear people in the United States. Because here's the thing. If they can disappear Mr. Abrego Garcia, then they can disappear you.
Now, how do you figure that, Senator Warren? And look, I'm not in the business of trying to defend the government disappearing anybody. But I really want to get your thinking here, Senator. And if you're hearing this, please, by all means, call in. But how is it that if you can deport someone who is a known gang member to their country of origin, how is it that you can deport me? How do you do it? How do they deport you? What do they do? How do they send you back to Boston? Right? It's not going to happen. What you're saying is it's not just a tall tale. It's a fabricated falsehood. You're a fake, you're a phony, you're a fraud. No, they can't just do this to anybody. Now, does it help that President Trump says, well, we're looking into it. Maybe we can do it with American citizens that want to do this as well. He's talking about people that are supporting terrorists here, right? If you want to support MS-13, maybe you should get locked up too. That's right. He says this for the sake of rhetorical purposes. And I'm sure that there's some truth to it too, right? If you're going to be aiding and abetting known antagonists of the United States, then there may be a price to pay. I understand that part of it. But they take that and run with it as in Trump wants to jail American citizens. And this is just not the case. And the fact that they think that it's okay to just lie like this, and moreover, or I should say worse so, they think that you're dumb enough to believe it. That's the part that pisses me off. I'm just thinking, come on, man, tell me something else, right? Tell me I'm good looking. Maybe I'll believe you. But I'm not believing you on this one. Not at all. Let me see if there's another short one that said I don't have to beat people up too badly here. Nah, everything else is kind of long. So I'm going to spare you. I'm going to spare you on that. But that's what the Democrats are up to. And I, for one, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about it. So I almost miss their complaints about Doge. And straight ahead, we're going to hear some complaints about Doge. I should say, she's probably second place for me, right? My second least favorite congresswoman from Texas, Jasmine Crockett. She's complaining about Doge and all of the cuts. And, it's been like a week or two since I've heard them say, Elon's coming for your Social Security check. He's trying to rob you. He's trying to steal your identity, right? Because they've been so focused on protecting this illegal alien. So we're going to hear from her and her complaints on that. And then we're going to check in with Mike Gonzalez, who's going to weigh in on this as well, because the Doge people have identified swinging the axe at public broadcasting like NPR and PBS. So keep it locked right here. More to come straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
PBS and NPR could see their budgets slashed. The White House called the public broadcasters a grift and trash, with a laundry list of content it didn't agree with. The release comes weeks after a hearing debating the public broadcasters' continued congressional funding, and comes as the New York Post reports the Trump administration is on the verge of formally asking Congress to rescind $1.1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The Post cited a memo from White House Budget Director Russ Vought. The memo reportedly cites anti-conservative bias as a reason for wanting to rescind the funds. A Pew Research poll from March found only 24% of the public wanted Congress to remove federal funding for NPR and PBS. Vought's memo also looks to codify some of the Department of Government Efficiency's foreign aid cuts. Citing waste that would continue without rescission, the White House could be asking Congress to eliminate $8 billion in funding for the State Department and the now dismantled USAID. NPR gets about 1% of its total funding from the federal government, and PBS gets about 15%. But the cuts could hit local stations harder, forcing some of them to close. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
So that's the latest with NPR and the rest of it. And like I said, there are many Congress people that are up in arms about it, not the least of which is Representative Jasmine Crockett. I'm going to play that audio for you in a little bit. But I want to get some reaction to this because I don't know. I think it's a pretty good idea. You know, I was on my buddy Chris Salcedo's TV show on Monday talking about this, and my thinking is I'm sitting here slaving away over this microphone, making sure that we maintain some ratings and that we keep selling advertising so that we can keep bringing you this program. And I haven't gotten a dollar from the federal government. And look, we still do it. Matter of fact, today is actually, I think, my 7th year anniversary, the 17th of April. So if I can do it, I think anybody could do it, right? Well, let's go to the pros, right? I want to go to Mike Gonzalez. He is a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, more appropriately, the Angeles T. Arredondo y Pluribus Unum senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Mike Gonzalez, welcome back.
Hey, man. Thanks a lot for having me on. I love the way you rolled the R's there in Arredondo.
Yeah, we try. So, Mike, I want to get your take on what is going on here with Doge. It seems to me Doge is being aggressive, and they're doing what needs to be done in order for our deficit to one day be reined in. And we can't do it if we're like, oh, but I like that. No, but I like this too. No, but we got to do that. You know, if you take that approach, you'll never get anything done, right?
Right, and Doge. I'm very hopeful that Doge will do something about NPR and PBS. In this case, it's not Doge. It's the White House that's going to send a memo to Congress asking Congress to have a rescission package that claws back. So Congress appropriates the money for NPR and PBS,
Mm-hmm.
but Congress, through rescission, can also claw back that money. It can unappropriate, as it were, and it would be about $1.1 billion, so about 2 years worth of funding. It's not true that NPR gets only 1% from the taxpayer, because what happens is the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gets about $535 million, $500 million from that Congress appropriates, so taxpayer money. Then the CPB sends it, part of it sends it to NPR, part of it sends it to PBS, and then it sends about 70% to 1,500 local television and radio stations. But here's the thing, Rich. They turn around and then they buy programming from NPR and PBS with that money, and so it's a shell game. NPR gets a lot more than 1%.
That's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, this is kind of like what Biden was doing, buying treasury bonds from himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all these guys are pros, right? But so it's not, and it's not because the White House doesn't agree with what NPR and PBS are doing. No, NPR and PBS, which have been around for 50 years, have a 50-year record of very biased reporting, which is demonstrable and documentable. It has been documented by people. It's we know. First of all you need to do is listen to it for 10 minutes. You know they're very biased, but we can show you the numbers of how the key phrases that they use, how much they challenge conservatives, how much they challenge liberals. These are very biased. So much so that since LBJ, the guy who created the CPB, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, every Republican president has tried to defund them. That's to me that's proof positive that they are biased. Now, they turn around and say, no, we're not biased. Well, I think we should allow conservatives to decide whether they're being denigrated or not.
You know, this is like the definition of the media for the deep state, right? The fact that every Republican president has tried to defund them and none have been able to sends a very strong message, Mike Gonzalez.
Well, I think that this year is, if they don't do it this year, it will never be done. But I have a column today in the Washington Examiner. I'm a weekly columnist for them, in which it say the planets are aligned because of Doge, as you said, because they're looking for cuts everywhere, because Elon Musk and Donald Trump have both said that NPR PBS do not deserve another penny of taxpayer money, because about 12 months ago, about a year ago now, there was an NPR whistleblower called Yuri Berliner who revealed the rot inside NPR. And then around the same time, also April last year, NPR, for reasons that are unexplainable to me, appointed as CEO and president a woman who is so woke that people say she's not real. She's made up by AI. Her name is Catherine Marr. In comment after comment after comment, she demonstrates she's completely biased. So, starting with the fact that she has said that the truth gets in the way of consensus, the truth gets in the way of getting things done. So
we can't let the truth get in the way of things.
Right, exactly. So the fact that NPR feel that they can appoint Catherine Marr as the CEO shows you that they feel that, to borrow a phrase from another context, they can't stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not face any consequences.
Unbelievable. Folks, we're having a discussion with Mike Gonzalez. He is with the Heritage Foundation, senior fellow there. And Mike Gonzalez, you're telling us about your column. And what I find interesting here is this is, just a drop in the bucket when it comes to savings, right? It's $1.1 billion overall, $535 million in each of the past 2 years. But if we don't take a stand on things like this, which continue to perpetuate bias at the same time, we never get out of this hole, right?
Exactly. I mean, you're not as old as I am, but you are old enough to know that, for example, there's nothing you can do about your mortgage. There's nothing you can do about your car payment. The way you save money is by cutting back on that Starbucks cup of coffee that you get every day.
Yeah,
that costs you $50. That costs you $5 a day. So that is the way you actually make an impact on your life. You can't skimp on your mortgage. You pay it or you lose your house, and that's your biggest payment. However, if you look at all these little payments that you make and you cut back, you actually make a difference.
100% right. Mike Gonzalez, stick with me. I want to continue this conversation. I want to get your reaction to how the left is reacting. In particular, Jasmine Crockett, congresswoman from Texas, she says that Doge is nothing more than a bunch of goons for President Trump. We're coming right back. Amigos, stick with us. We're going to continue that conversation with Mike Gonzalez from the Heritage Foundation straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Congresswoman, just your take on the latest Doge assault that we are now seeing. Yeah, you know, what I really want people to understand is that this has been painted as Democrats are for, you know, waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's because they are the swamp and that kind of stuff. And I got news for you. The only fraudsters that we see is the one that was actually convicted of fraud in a court, the one who also was found liable as it relates to his businesses for fraud. Him and his goons are the problem in this country right now.
That is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She was on with Simone Sanders Townsend. She used to be chief of staff to Que Mala Eres, the former vice president of these United States. And she has a show now on television. And this is the rhetoric that we get from the left, that the Doge people are a bunch of goons for President Trump. I want to bring back our pro. He is the guest of the hour. His name, Mike Gonzalez from Heritage Foundation. Mike is the Angeles T. Arredondo y Pluribus Unum Senior Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He's also a columnist at the Washington Examiner. And Mike Gonzalez, we talked a lot about the particulars of this rescission coming from the White House urging Congress to rescind the funding. But I want to get your thoughts on the reaction that we're getting from individuals like Representative Crockett. Mike Gonzalez.
You know, she was on the she was at the hearing where I spoke on March 26th. Mm-hmm. Now you will not know, or nobody will know that I was also a witness at that hearing. This is the Doge hearing on NPR and PBS, because all the attention went to Catherine Marr. As it should have been, because she practically self-immolated. She said a whole bunch of things that were proven to be untrue. She lied on their oath when she said that NPR was unbiased. And then she said, you know, Brandon Gill, by the way, from Texas, who's a freshman, who was fantastic. He said, like, well, Ms. Marr, you said that you are for reparations. And she goes, no, I never said that. I said, no, Ms. Marr, you actually tweeted that, exactly that, a year ago. So all the attention was on her. But Jasmine Crockett was at that hearing, and she was one of two Democratic congressmen who questioned my testimony. Only my testimony was mentioned. And she completely twisted it. She made it appear like I said that reporting on the death of George Floyd was one of the reasons why NPR and PBS should be defunded. I would never say that. I'm a former journalist. You have to report on newsworthy events, and that's definitely a newsworthy event, as you know. And she actually went to the head of NPR and the head of PBS and said, you know, Ms. Marr, Ms. Kruger, do you think that you don't need to report on the death of George Floyd? And they said, no, absolutely, you must. And if she had asked me, I would have asked the same thing. So I had to set the record straight. She just lied about what I said. But look, their whole reaction, not just Jasmine Crockett, but Congressman Garcia, all of them, they reacted by not taking the hearing seriously, by talking about Elmo and the Cookie Monster and Big Bird, whereas PBS, you know, licensed off Sesame Street to HBO 10 years ago. So if you look through the testimony by the head of PBS, Paula Kruger, she doesn't mention Sesame Street once. But the congressmen beclowned themselves by talking only about Sesame Street and the characters. What Paula Kruger did talk about was local. She mentioned the word local 15 times, and we can get you and I as to why she did that. This is the way that they're now selling themselves. But no, they actually, the Democrats in the committee and the subcommittee did not help NPR and PBS at all. And this is another reason the hearing was so bad that this is another reason why I think that this time they will be defunded.
Folks, we're on with Mike Gonzalez from the Heritage Foundation, and I agree with you. I think this time around we're seeing a lot of a lot of changes, right? With a lot of things, because it's not coming from just one angle. I think you've got a lot of different angles that are pursuing this. For example, today, Brendan Carr, chairman of the FCC, says that Comcast outlets are distorting the news and putting them on notice. I don't remember the last time I heard the FCC ever talk about this. This is what they do, though, right? This is what the Federal Communications is supposed to do, Commission is supposed to do. But I don't think we've ever seen that, but for the leadership of Brendan Carr. So it seems to me like all cylinders are firing in the right direction, Mike Gonzalez.
No, actually, and one thing that everybody forgets, including me, every once in a while, I didn't mention in my column today, I just realized, is that Chairman Carr is also going after NPR and PBS, and that he's investigating them on whether they are truly non-commercial, and that is in their charter. The charter is the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967, which says that these stations must be non-commercial. Now, if you watch PBS or you listen to NPR, and I do, I'm a consumer of these outlets, they are completely, they have a lot of sponsors. They have a lot of companies, foundations that pay for them, and they run ads for them. Now, the ads are not like the ads we see in other TV shows. They're different, but they do get, it's a sponsorship nonetheless. So that is a question that is going to come up now, whether they're keeping by the letter of the law as being truly non-commercial.
Fascinating stuff. It's about time things happen to dismantle the deep state, if you will, because apparently the government has been steeped in the deep state, and the more we look at it, the more we realize we've just been surrounded by it. And but for Doge coming at it from the financial perspective, we may never have thought to look at these things. I mean, yes, maybe NPR. I know people have been looking at them for years, but not getting anywhere. Now we're actually getting somewhere. Mike Gonzalez, let everybody know how they can follow your column and keep up to speed with the work that you're doing.
Well, that's very nice of you. My last book with Catherine Gorka, Next Gen Marxism, has been selling really well. I am very active on social media. Gonzalez, which is Gonzalez in Latin, Gunbisalvus, and obviously heritage.org. They're my employers. I'm very prolific. You can find me on social media. I don't do Instagram enough. My children tell me to do Instagram, but I don't do enough of it. I've never gotten into it. I do a lot of X posting, and I write copiously. So you can find me like that.
Outstanding. Folks, give him a follow. Great work from Mike Gonzalez. Mike, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I appreciate you being here, sir. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you, and I love it when you fill in for Mark Levin. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. God bless you, man. And amigos, we come back. Your thoughts, calls, and reactions, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. I see we got calls from Connecticut, from South Carolina, and more coming in. I quickly wanted to remind you, earlier I mentioned that Tim Walz, right? Tiananmen Tim Walz, also known as Tampon Tim by many, governor of Minnesota. He had some things to say about this Abrego Garcia. Listen to this.
I have come to understand what Donald Trump, what pops into his head and he says, he's going to carry it out. Once again, he talked about the tariffs. He talked about, he's going to deport people. And this whole thing with
Hold on a second. So you're saying, Governor Walz, that Donald Trump is a man of his word. Got it. Go ahead.
Abreu Garcia. It's that old wisdom and terrifying is if you're not speaking up for this man, there will be no one left to speak up for you. Whether it's Chris
stop.
Krebs.
What are you talking about? Another one. As if this is the man that is going to define all of America. He defines every American citizen an MS-13 gang member. Unbelievable. That's Tim Walz for you. I can't even listen to the rest of that. Let's go to one of his biggest defenders. This guy loves Tim Walz. He loves tampons in boys' bathrooms. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina. How those tampons treating you, sir?
Hey, you know what? And you love Kool-Aid because you drink it 5 days a week, man.
Brother, who doesn't love some good Kool-Aid?
Kool-Aid?
I like the grape Kool-Aid. I like the red Kool-Aid. I love some Kool-Aid. And I sell it on the corner to get, make a little extra money on the side. Go right ahead.
Hey, you didn't shoot nobody while you was on that corner, did you? Like Trump, he could stand on the corner and shoot someone. He was losing support. I saw your boy Santos on TV the other night. Oh, yeah, I vote for him, too, even if he shot someone. Now, there's a con artist if you've seen one.
Now, how are you going to defend your buddy Tim Walz here?
Sure. Hey, don't worry about Tim, okay? Tim will be all right.
Well, Tim says if we don't defend Kilmar Garcia and El Salvador and we don't defend MS-13, then we're not defending anybody.
Hey, by the way, is the war in Ukraine, Russia's war in Ukraine, is it over yet? He said he would end it in 24 hours. It wouldn't even happen if I was in office.
Brother, we're talking about Kilmer Abreu Garcia, the MS-13 gangbanger. I want to hear your defense of Tim Walz and the MS-13 gang member.
He's coming home. Hey,
is he coming home with the senator? What's that?
He's coming home sooner or later. He's coming home.
What if we get him to appear via video conference and then we deport him from the video conference? So he's already there. We save him a trip.
There's no evidence. There's no evidence of that. It's just a big Trump lie. Just like people eating people's pets. It's just another lie.
That wasn't a lie. There was a lady eating people's pets, and it happened in Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
sure,
I talked about it on the show. I pulled up the police report and everything.
Oh,
Anyway.
yeah, the police report. Oh, yeah, right.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Don't let the facts get in the way of your story, right? Don't let the truth mess things up for you. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA, big supporter of tampons in boys' bathrooms. Thank you, Jerome. Appreciate you, my brother. Shout out to WTMA. I see we got calls coming in. Line 5 flashing. We got line 4 on hold. Let's go to line 3. Ann in New Milford, Connecticut. WDRC. Go right ahead.
About approximately 1 year ago, I had an issue of the New York State United Teachers newspaper that comes, and I'm retired. 43 years experience in New York teaching, and I retired about 25 years ago to take care of my grandchildren. And I wanted to speak in support of the union that has always supported us in the school system when we had to contend with some administrators that we needed help to survive in the school system. Also, I wanted to speak about the schools here where recently there was a tremendous high school musical put on with 42 students participating and approximately that number on the stage crew and also the pit orchestra. Now,
Well, let me tell you something about high school musicals. I love a good high school musical. When I was in high school, I went to North Bergen High School for the majority of my high school career, and I loved it. They had a number of productions. They did all sorts of things, and everything that they did, whether it was a vocal showcase, a play, there was a talent show, whatever they did, I always had a blast. It was just fantastic. So I can applaud that part of it. The other part of it, defending the teachers union. I mean, obviously, if you're a teacher and that's your union, they're going to look out for you in the form of contracts and negotiating on your behalf with administrators and whatnot. My umbrage with the teachers union was never that they didn't look out for the teachers, as is their job. It was that they totally ignored the students, and it was almost like an unfair playing field where parents were oftentimes criticized for not being involved in the students' education, but at the same time, they weren't really allowed to be part of it in many ways, right? They were treated as if they didn't know anything, whether it's parents that are trying to navigate an IEP for a student, or if it's parents that just want to find out more about what's going on. They were never really told things like, hey, by the way, you know what? As a parent, you're allowed to sit in on the class and be an active participant in your kid's education, right? Oftentimes they're just told, hey, look, stay in your house. I'll let you know what's wrong and what works and what's this and what's that. And that's how administrators oftentimes handle that. So that's always been where I take exception with the unions. But thank you for your service in the classroom. Thank you for your call, and a big shout out to WDRC. Happy Easter, Ann. God bless you. And I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back for Sherwood, Illinois, and other calls that are holding. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, here we go to the phones. Robert, Sherwood, Illinois, WLS in the building. Go for it, Robert.
Good evening, sir. Pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise.
I kind of wanted to do the inverse of what you were just talking about, and if you don't mind me double dipping, giving some insight on the teachers' conversation you were having in schooling. But it's sometimes you need that old school dad or uncle or brother or son type attitude, and I do not advocate violence. I was a guy that got picked on a lot as a kid. Then as I came of age and went into martial arts and packed on some muscle, people didn't mess with me. But I want to stress, I don't advocate violence, but a lot of this stuff used to not be so frequent, and there was a reason for that. And it was because men would act like men.
Yep,
and,
with a firm
we
hand.
Kind of lost that in society now.
I agree with you, man. Look, my dad was like that, and I would say he was softest with me, right? It's probably why I talk so much smack on the radio for a living. But, when I talk to my older brothers all the time, they talk about how tough daddy was and how what a man he was. And that's just how the old timers were, what they call the old generation, the OGs. Original gangsters, however you want to phrase it. They did things a certain way, and neighborhoods were safer, in my opinion. People were more respectful. Everybody knew their place, and they knew what and who they could count on. And lamentably, it's not the case anymore. So I'm with you, Robert. I'm definitely with you. Sometimes you need a little dose of that old school. Robert in Sherwood, Illinois, thank you for the call. Happy Easter to you, brother. And let's continue. Let's go to Bill, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Speed round. Make it happen quickly.
Hey, Rich. I wanted to ask you, like yesterday, Caroline Levitt, the speaker, the House Speaker, rather, had Patty Moran on. Did you happen to watch that? Did you happen to see that?
Yeah, I watched all of it, like 8 minutes.
Okay, but this is what's bugging me. Did you happen to hear the question? Because she gave the audience, the reporters, a time to ask.
Well, I think what you're getting at is why she left. Usually these things are timed. They usually have a certain amount of time, and they take a certain amount of questions, and it's just for the sake of they've got more stuff to do during the day. Bill in Pittsburgh, thanks for the call. Amigos, happy Good Friday to you. I'll be with you tomorrow. Great show lined up. Hasta la próxima. Until the next time, take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.